Hello everyone, new episode today, and do you like my new surroundings? I kind of moved everything upstairs because I think it looks better. Anyway, welcome. Today I am talking about self-compassion, and the title is How to Be Nicer to Yourself, because people really struggle with this. And the thing is, have you ever noticed that it's like so much easier to be nicer and compassionate towards somebody else, but it's really difficult to be nice to yourself? And it's the same with the way we give advice to people. It's easy to give advice to somebody, and then if you're in the same situation as that person you're giving advice to, it's really hard to give that advice to yourself. So there's a reason for this. So you know that voice inside your head, the little bitch that's always got a lot to say, and she's always saying like, it's not good enough. She's judging the hell out of you and others all day, every day, and she's just judging away and saying things to you like, that's not good enough, try harder, you shouldn't have eaten that, who do you think you are, no one's going to want to listen to what you've got to say. It's that voice that stops us from giving ourselves the compassion that we give to others. So I'm going to share with you 4 mystical beliefs about self-compassion, meaning these 4 reasons are probably the reasons why you think you can't give yourself self-compassion. And I'm going to share with you 3 ideas to start giving yourself compassion straight away, like starting from today. So 4 mystical beliefs then. So your lack of self-compassion is most likely down to these 4 things. So number 1, you might be thinking, if I'm giving myself compassion, then all I'm doing is indulging. And let me break that down a little bit. So that's what I used to think self-compassion was. I used to think it was indulging. So what I mean by that is when I'd had a bad day at work, or I just felt shit, I thought, oh, I'm going to be nice to myself and I'm just going to eat chocolate because that makes myself feel better. And that's me being self-compassionate. But that isn't compassion, that's self-indulgence, because the difference between self-compassion and self-indulgence is self-indulgence is trying to numb the pain or run away from the pain, or doing anything, no matter whether it's good for your health or anybody else. It's just doing something to run away from something, to make yourself feel better in that short time. Self-compassion, it's not about running away from pain. It's about sitting in the pain that you feel and just being okay with it, but thinking loving thoughts towards yourself and just being kind to yourself, and not like scolding yourself like your mother used to scold you, or the way you scold children. Like, it's just being okay with how you feel, but showing yourself love around that. And so ultimately, or giving yourself a hug, or going to get a hug off somebody else, or speaking kind to yourself. So it's doing something, thinking something that's going to help your situation or the pain that you're feeling now and in the future. So self-indulgence, for example, let's go back to the binge eating. That is making yourself feel better in the short term, but then most likely straight after or the next day, but usually whilst you're eating, then you're scolding yourself, telling yourself off and feeling shit about it. So that's self-indulgence. So that's not self-compassion. So number 2, you may think that you might not be motivated if you don't criticize yourself, okay? So somewhere deep down you might be thinking, if I'm not mean to myself, if I don't criticize myself and my inner bitch doesn't keep coming up, then that will mean that I'll never reach my goals and I won't get anywhere in life, because if you're all nicey, then how is that going to work? So the thing is, it's also possible to think that, and maybe part of this is true, but we don't need this anymore. Our inner bitch we may think that she is there to protect us from getting hurt. So for example, you've got to speak in front of loads of people and your inner bitch is there going, oh no, they're going to laugh at you, they're not going to want to hear you, blah, blah, blah. Then she's doing that to protect you, because if they didn't like you, then if you didn't put yourself out there, then she is then ultimately protected you from getting hurt, if that makes sense. But let me tell you something, and this was my episode last week, so check it out. People will not like you. People will also like you, and that's just the way it is. So it doesn't matter anyway. So, and back in the caveman days, your inner bitch was finding negative things to talk about all the time, because you needed to be kept safe, because then your life would be in physical danger, because we live a lot differently to the ways that we live now. And the thing is, we don't need that inner bitch there anymore. And the truth is that motivation, the motivational power of self-criticism comes from the fear of scolding and self-punishment, whereas the motivational power from self-compassion comes from the desire to be happy and healthy and to reduce your suffering. So there is a massive difference. Number 3, another myth, is it's selfish for me to be compassionate to myself. So especially us women, okay, we tend to put others ahead of ourselves. We tend to always think of other people before we think of ourselves, or do the right thing, quote unquote, okay? But the thing is, we think doing the right thing is taking care of others, but then what about ourselves? So how will beating yourself up make you be kinder to others? Because surely when you learn how to give compassion to yourself, therefore, when you do give compassion to others, it comes from an even more authentic place. So you can give even more compassion to others when you give compassion to yourself, because you're living the life of compassion, not just to others, but to yourself. So does that make sense? So you're able to show more compassion to others. So by doing the right thing, quote unquote, it's not putting others before yourself, it's putting yourself first, filling yourself up with love, and then you can spill that more onto others. So number 4 is, this is a really strong one, which I believe the whole world and society, especially in the Western world, tend to look at things. And it's the number 4 is self-compassion is for wimps, right? So we hear the sayings like, put your big girl panties on and just get on with it, stop whining, or man up, or just get a grip, right? So people, like, even when we're younger, like, our parents say to us, oh, come on, big girls don't cry. Well, although they didn't realise they were saying that would have a negative effect on you going forward, yeah, big girls cry. And you know what? There's nothing more stronger than seeing a man cry, because most men are scared to show their emotions and they think, oh, I'm not man enough if I'm crying. Well, actually, vulnerability is the most powerful, strongest emotion you can show to others, is to be vulnerable. So if you need to cry, then cry. Do not hold emotions inside of you, because emotions are energy in motion. And the thing is, you stop the emotion trying to pass through you. So if you feel like you want to cry and then you're suppressing it, then it's blocked energy. And then whether you believe in the whole thing that the world is energy or not, it is, you're blocking the energy, and then that causes stress, binge eating, anything that comes out of your actions in a negative way is most likely due to stored energy. And in the spiritual world, that's called a samskara. So more about that another time. But the thing is, get man up, get a grip, put your big girl pants on. It doesn't help. It helps for a short time, you think, but again, compassion will always get more of a change in a positive way and a longer lasting change than negativity or scolding yourself ever will. Like, I am an advocate for body confidence, if you hadn't gathered that already, for body confidence and self-love, but I'm not saying that it's not okay to change your body, because of course it is. What I say is it's totally okay to change your body. First of all, you need to learn to accept and love the body you have now, and before you want it to change. And then we can change from a place of love and not from a place of hate. And then when you learn how to do that, it's the most powerful thing ever. And then your life's just like completely different. So that's what I teach in my coaching. So now I'm going to give you 3 ideas of how to put self-compassion into your life and start getting the results that come from actually being nice to yourself. Okay, so number 1, it's quite obvious, it's be kinder to yourself. So the best way to think about being kinder to yourself is to think about a friend. So what I want you to do right now is close your eyes and just think about your best friend or your sister or your mother or someone who you care for very much. So do that now, like actually, unless you're driving, then clearly don't close your eyes because that would be dangerous. But actually close your eyes and think about someone who you hold very dear to your heart, okay? Now imagine this person who you're visualizing comes up to you and says, oh, I'm really struggling. I feel so down about myself. I can't stop binge eating. I really want to stop, but for some reason I just can't do it. I feel shit about my body. I just feel so helpless. Like, I just really need to speak to you because I just feel like shit right now, okay? So would you say to this friend, well, you just need to man up and stop eating shit? Well, of course you wouldn't. But let me ask you this, would you say that to yourself? I'm guessing that you would, or something similar along the lines of man up and stop eating shit. Why do you keep failing? Why do you keep doing this? You're useless, okay? Does that sound familiar? Because why would you speak to yourself differently? Why would you speak to yourself differently compared to the way you speak to someone you love very much? Like, hello? You have to live with you forever, so why not be nice to yourself? You actually get better results when you're nice to yourself. It's more likely you would go up to your friend, give her a big cuddle and be like, look, it's okay, I'm really sad to hear that you feel that way, but let's talk about it. You know, you've used food like to comfort yourself since you was in an abusive relationship, so you know, it's no wonder why you keep going back to food. So it's okay. I know people who have overcome this and you can do it. Let's talk about it. So how does that differ compared to, well, you just need to man up and stop eating shit? Okay, it's obvious. Of course it is. But compassion is everything. So give the same compassion to yourself as you would your friend. So you could practice that and put your hand on your heart or wherever you feel the most pain is coming up for you with what you're struggling with, and use an endearing name for yourself and say something like, okay, sweetheart, she's right. You have used food for so long and food has helped you in the past. So it's not my fault. I can do something about it. Let me see if I can get some help, but it's okay. I love you anyway, right? And how does that feel if you're talking to yourself like that compared to, well, I just need to stop eating shit and I'm so weak and I've got no willpower and so can do it, and then start scrolling through Instagram and being like, oh, look at all her abs and look how amazing her bum looks and why can't I look like that? And like, it just takes over your life and you feel shit. We are not here alive on this earth to feel shit. We are all here to live life, experience life, and just, you know, don't take it so seriously. Have fun, and more importantly, love yourself more than you love anybody else in the whole world. And I know that may sound selfish to some of you or self-centered, but when I talk about loving yourself and self-compassion, I'm not talking about going around wearing hardly any clothes thinking you look amazing, and you know, that's different, that's arrogance. And people that actually do that are people who actually have no self-confidence or self-worth, and they need external attention to make themselves feel good about themselves, which exactly what I used to do. I've been so many different shapes and sizes in my life, and the time when I was like quote unquote fitness model standard, like 9.5% body fat I was, which is ridiculous for a girl. My menstrual cycle stopped and everything. I used to go around hardly wearing anything because I felt good when people complimented me. But actually, if you took everything away, I didn't know who I was. I wasn't like happy with who I was inside. And if my body was taken away from me the very next day, I would have been a wreck. Okay, so that's just something to think about. And number two, so number one was be kinder to yourself. Number two is you are not alone. And do you know what? The more I coach people on how to overcome binge eating, it's like, how do I say it? It breaks my heart, but at the same time, it fills me with so much hope and love, knowing that, you know, when you're sat there, because I'm obviously specialised in binge eating, so you're sat there after a binge, right, and you're by yourself, which is most likely when you do it, you look around at everything all the empty wrappers, what you've eaten, and you just think, oh my God, I am so shit, like, I'm the only one that is suffering this way. No one else does this as bad as me. Like, why can't I be normal? Why me? Like, you feel so lonely. You really feel lonely, okay? And the thing is, you're not alone in this. And that brings comfort to me, knowing that, because people are so ashamed of their actions around binge eating and the way they hate their bodies. People are ashamed and embarrassed about what they've done or how they feel, and there's nothing to be ashamed of, because there's reasons why you do this, by the way, and that's totally okay. And yes, you want to change it, but it is what it is. There's a reason why you're in this place right now, and you can change that if you want to. But it's so comforting knowing that you are not alone. There is so many women out here and men that struggle with what you're struggling with, but they also feel alone. So please take comfort in knowing that there's millions of people that are going through what you're going through. And the next time you're looking in the mirror and not liking what you see, or the next time you have a binge and you just hate yourself for it, you know, remember that you're part of this wonderful, wounded, imperfect, amazing human tribe, because you are, and you're not alone. And there's also people like me that have overcome what you're going through that can help you get out of the other side. So please know that you're not alone. That is really important. And number three, is a tip, or an idea that you can use to get yourself to be more self-compassionate and have more love for yourself, is to be mindful. So how do you know if you're suffering, or how do you really know if you're suffering if all you spend your time doing is rationalizing something or being busy with problem solving all the time? Like, you must allow the awareness of your pain to enter into yourself and for you to really feel that. And we don't like to feel pain as humans. That's why we use food, alcohol, drugs, sex, whatever. We don't like to sit in pain. But the thing is, self-compassion is being aware of your pain and not judging yourself, and just being okay with what's happening, and just thinking thoughts of, it's okay, sweetheart, you know, don't worry, everything's going to be all right. I understand that you're feeling pain. This will pass. Like, just sitting there and being mindful with what you're actually feeling, and not trying to make it go away by like, right, we need to problem solve. Let's do this, this, and this. And yes, that's fine going forward. But first of all, you need to give yourself that time and attention and energy, and just let yourself feel the pain and acknowledge yourself for that, because we're too busy running away from things all the time, and it does us no good at all. And there's a really nice saying by, I can't pronounce the name, Shin Zen Young, something like that, and he or she says, suffering equals pain and resistance. So we all have pain in our lives. We will always continue to have pain in our lives, but suffering is optional, because suffering is pain plus your resistance to that pain. So, excuse me, you've probably heard of the saying, I've maybe said it before because I do use it a lot, that what you resist persists and what you face disappears. So if you're constantly trying to run away from your pain by eating or whatever it is that you do, or just not thinking about it, or pretending you're all happy and positive and you're totally fine when you're not, then you're running away from that and you're resisting that. So then guess what? It's going to be there even stronger for you. Like, it's so hard to just sit. It's like very spiritually advanced to just sit there and then just be like, yeah, I'm struggling. I feel really sad. And that's okay. Like, you know, gets me emotional. But it's hard, but practice that. And just the pain that you think you can't handle, which is why you try to run away from things, you can handle it. You're a lot stronger than you think, and it's okay to just sit with your pain. So what I tend to do is, when you feel pain, like after a binge, let's go for example again, after a binge, where do you feel the most pain or sadness with what you've done? Maybe it's in your stomach because it's a physical pain because you're so full. Maybe for me it was in my heart, and I did a lot of heart chakra clearing with my coach. And it was so funny because, well, not funny, but just, it was amazing that when she did guided meditations with me and she would tell me to put my hands on my heart, and she would guide me through this meditation, that tears would just come from my eyes, and I would be happy, but I would be just crying at the same time because I had so much pain in my heart and I needed to clear that, and I never gave it the attention before. So when I sat with myself and gave my pain the attention and was just like, do you know what, it's okay, and I'm acknowledging that I have pain and it's still okay, and I just love myself, like, I hope I'm making sense. That's so powerful. So sit wherever you've got the pain, put both hands there, it might be in your tummy, your head, your heart, wherever, and then just feel your pain, right? Feel the sadness, the self-hate, whatever you're feeling, feel that, but at the same time, imagine that there's all these like little waves of love and self-compassion, like just surrounding your pain. So you've got this pain, you're feeling it, you're just sitting in it, but you're imagining this light or love or whatever you want to visualize in your head, what compassion or love looks like, that's surrounding your pain and is like looking after your pain and just being there for you. I hope this makes sense. Try and describe it in the best way I can. But weird, and you kind of being like, yeah, okay, whatever, Vic, like move on. But try it, please try it. And the thing is, as we come to an end on this podcast, YouTube video, whatever, like I always now choose self-compassion in my life towards myself, especially when my inner bitch likes to keep popping up. So my question to you is, will you now choose self-compassion for yourself? And I really, really, from my heart, I really hope that you do, okay? So if you have any questions, please get in touch. Please get in touch. And if you know somebody who would benefit from listening to this or watching this, please share this with them, because everyone needs to be nice to themselves. The whole world would be a better place. I've said this a few times. Imagine if the whole world loved themselves like so much. Imagine what the world would be like. So, okay, as always, guys, my ending statement, you really can. You can have, you can be, and you can do anything that you want in this life. You've just got to believe in yourself and go out there and get it. So I love you, and I will see you next week.